you for joining me for Storytime with Tanya for part 3 of the Thankful season. This is the finale. By the time the last glint of pumpkin pie crust had vanished from dessert plates, the Carter house had eased into a familiar evening hush. The low rumble of yet another football game seeped from the living room TV. Half the cousins lay sprawled on overstuffed couches, breathing softly in post-feast slumber, and the kitchen counters resembled a war zone littered with crumbs from empty casserole dishes glinting under the overhead light. Melissa stood at the porcelain sink, water singing over her hands as she rinsed the cherry-stained pie tins, while her mother, arms lined with steam's warmth, loaded the dishwasher with practiced ease. Beyond the kitchen window, a sudden gust of wind whistled through the pines and rattled the window panes. At first, a few individual flakes drifted down, ghostly and delicate, but within minutes the sky darkened and flakes multiplied, floating in lazy spirals through the barely lit yard. "Looks like winter's coming early this year," Frank murmured as he rose from the plush recliner, squinting out at the swirling snow. His voice carried a nostalgic note, as if he were remembering a season long past. In less than an hour, the gentle flurry had become a boisterous storm. Snow piled against the front steps, softening the driveway into a featureless field of white. The wind roared along the eaves, tugging at the shutters, and then, with a sudden, ominous click, the lights winked out. Darkness enveloped every corner of the house. For a heartbeat, there was only hush. No clatter of dishes, no hum of the fridge, no glow of screens. Then came a chorus of exasperated sighs and scattered groans. A toddler's wail rose as her tablet flickered off while someone yelped in what sounded like a stubbed toe on a stray shoe. Elaine can be heard grumbling loudly about turkey leftovers spoiling unrefrigerated. Above the clamor, Grandma Ruth's rich chuckle rolled through the hallway like distant thunder. Her silhouette appeared in the doorway, shoulders draped in her hand-knitted shawl, silver hair catching the last gleam of twilight from the window. "Well, Frank," she said, her voice warm and steady as mulled cider, each syllable wrapped in the slight Kentucky drawl she never lost. "Well, this feels familiar." She shuffled forward, arthritis-snarled fingers, finding the edge of the dining table. "Weren't you just talking about that blizzard? I've sometimes thought that was the best Thanksgiving we've ever had, but today might be another for the memory books." Frank slipped away and returned moments later with a battered box of tapered candles. Pale cylinders of wax streaked with cedar-scented age. David set them in mismatched holders around the dining table, and as he struck a match, each wick blossomed into a trembling flame. Golden halos flickered on faces young and old, casting playful shadows across the walls. Meanwhile, Melissa gathered a pile of woolen blankets, their fibers soft as cat's fur, and tucked them around the sleepy children, whose groans turned to delighted squeals at this unexpected adventure. In a candlelight glow, the living room shed its ordinary trappings. Without the glare of screens, the family rediscovered a quieter rhythm. Melissa sank into the velvet couch, her dog Sprinkles curled like a cinnamon roll at her feet beneath a plaid quilt. Nearby, Tiffany's children built a secret fort of chairs and blankets, their whispered giggles echoing like wind chimes. Frank launched into one of his fondly corny childhood tales, his voice rising with each exaggerated twist. David, for once unburdened by self-consciousness, produced a deck of cards and dealt hands across the candlelit tabletop. At one point, Elaine drifted close and rested her head on Frank's broad shoulder, murmuring, "Maybe this isn't so bad after all." Her words floated through the hush like soft falling snow. Melissa looked at the glowing faces and realized her chest felt lighter than it had in months. She had spent so long tallying up her accomplishments, comparing herself to some invisible checklist, career milestones, relationship milestones, perfectly curated social media moments, always striving, but feeling like it was never enough. Yet here, amid the flickering candlelight and a storm that turned the world outside to a blank canvas, none of that mattered. Belonging wasn't something you earned with achievements or approval. Melissa realized as she watched the candlelight dance across Tiffany's laugh lines. It was something bestowed freely in this living room where the faded armchair still bore the grape juice stain from her 7th birthday, where David's off-key rendition of Sweet Caroline still made everyone groan before joining in on the chorus, where the smell of cinnamon and clove from Grandma Ruth's potpourri mingled with the wood smoke curling from the fireplace, a scent that would always mean home, no matter how far she traveled. As the evening deepened, the family huddled closer, passing woolen blankets with frayed edges and faded patterns around like sacred talismans. Grandma Ruth's papery voice crackled to life with "I've got plenty to be thankful for," a melody that wavered and strengthened as each family member joined the chorus, their breaths visible in the cooling air. One by one, they surrendered to sleep. First, the children with flushed cheeks and sticky fingers. Then Uncle David snoring softly in his armchair, his glasses askew. Outside, the blizzard's fury rattled like century-old window panes and piled snow against the north-facing walls, but inside, the corridors were bathed in the amber glow of candles burning down to stubs, their shadows dancing across the ceiling. Melissa pulled her knees to her chest, beneath the quilt her mother had stitched when she was pregnant with her, and closed her eyes. In the candlelight quiet, broken only by the occasional pop from the dying fire, she offered a silent prayer of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for this symphony of breathing bodies, for the imperfect harmony of our voices. Thank you for home. The end. Thank you for joining me for Storytime with Tanya for this 3-part story called The Thankful Season. From my family to yours, have a happy Thanksgiving. We hope that your Thanksgiving is filled with love, joy, family, and some good food. Happy Thanksgiving.